Peace to the gods. It's Yusef. Welcome to another edition of the Natural Law Hour. What up, everyone? See you in the chat room. Everybody join me this afternoon. We're going to get into a discussion. You know, I really like how Reverend Ike was breaking down. If y'all have listened to my show a number of times, you always hear me play the Reverend Ike audio where he's talking about the devil is mind's misunderstanding of God. I think that was so ingenious how he phrased that. And, earlier I had written a poem. I wrote this poem one time about the devil, having conversations with the devil. And I think that's what we're going to concentrate on today, is who and what is this devil? Is there a devil? Because he posed a very, very powerful philosophical question, if you were paying attention, is how can there be a devil if God is one? If Allah is one, how can there be a devil? And that's a very interesting question. If everything comes from one source, if everything comes out of love, how can there be what you term evil, if everything has source in love? That's something to think about. Because if love created everything, then in what you call evil, doesn't it contain love? Just something to ponder on. You know, it's just a philosophical question. You don't have to answer it right now. But let's look at it. You know, let's examine that, this devil concept, because, a lot of times, I think that this devil concept is a big, big reason why we have so much irresponsibility in the world, because having a devil, this imaginary devil, allows you to shift responsibility off your shoulders onto this invisible spirit entity. That, by the way, they may have, half a man's body, half a goat's body with a pitchfork that looks curiously like, it's a triton, and he looks like a half goat. He's red, he's down under the ground where fire is burning, and if you be good, you're going to go to heaven, and if you be evil, you're going to hell to burn eternally. Now, that's some serious shit. Let me think about this for a second. So I'm on planet Earth for roughly, let's say, 75 years. That's about the average lifespan. So I stay here 75 years, and let's say I do some evil shit while I'm here. I'm worse than the worst person that you could think of. Hitler, anybody like that. I killed, 1 billion people. I created some type of biological disease to wipe out, most of the white people on the planet. Let's say I was just evil and shit like that, all right? And so after I create this and everything, I die and go to, hell. So am I going to be judged to burn in hell for eternity for something that I only did for 75 years? And not even 75 years, say about 50 years. So, 50 years of my time, that I was given, I screwed it up. Ain't no forgiveness for it or nothing like that. And I got to do eternity. Then, doesn't that kind of go against the natural law principle of change? The only thing that does not change is change. I mean, things are constantly in a state of flux. Nothing remains the same. There's nothing that's permanent. Everything is always changing. So for me to be in the same spot eternally, suffering for eternity, doesn't that kind of violate the natural law of, change? I don't know. These are just philosophical questions I'm asking right now. I'm just kind of, have you ever stopped and sit back? Now, I know some of y'all sat back and thought about some of this. I know y'all sit back and y'all think about this type of stuff because, you go to church and you just got kind of like questions and everything. You ask, okay, well, why God just don't wave his hand and make all the evil people go away? Why does he why do it seem like evil people have all the fun? Why is everything evil, good? You know what I'm saying? I mean, like everything you like to do is bad for you. All the bad food tastes good as hell. All the activities, that people like to do are just bad. They're just sinful. Like, why is that? I mean, that have you ever thought about that? I kind of think, what if, let me just pose this question. What if the God that they're giving us is really the devil and the devil is really God? Damn, that sounds like some satanic ass shit, don't it? It sounds like some satanic shit. But, but what if, here's the thing though. Didn't they say the devil made evil fair seeming? What if we down here they did a mind fuck on us, and because I'm telling you now, when I be looking in the Bible, I look in the Bible, and the Bible, the God of the Old Testament was killing some shit. You know what I'm saying? So it made me kind of like, I'm like, wow, this is God. This is all loving Creator. He's like, I'm gonna give you free will, but if you don't do what the fuck I say, you're gonna burn forever in heaven. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, damn. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's like you got free will, but you're going to do what the fuck I say do. I'm going to burn your ass up for eternity, all right? Hey, think about that, you got your kids, that what that fuck your son mind up. You can do what you want to do, but you don't do what I say, and we'll fuck you up. I'm gonna give you free will, and then I'm jealous of you because if I'm giving you free will and you decide to worship Satan or another god, I'm jealous. Now, what kind of shit is that? I mean, that don't make. Tell the truth now. Tell the truth. That shit don't make no sense to y'all. Do it. Because you say, okay, well, God is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-present. I mean, this is another one. Here's another one, though. Here's another one that be fucking with me real, real bad. And y'all know it gets y'all, too. When you said, well, God knows everything. But he has to test you to see what's in your heart. What the fuck? Oh, ain't no damn sense. Does that make sense? Does that make sense if God knows everything? Let's examine that. We're going to scientifically examine that question. God knows everything, but he has to test you to see what's in your heart. Hold on, let me pull this up in the Bible. I'm going somewhere. Y'all ride with me. I'm just not going. It's not an empty diatribe. I'm going somewhere. Just ride for a second. What the fuck is Yusef talking about? But I'm riding. Just ride with me for a second. All right, let's go to the Bible. Let's go to Deuteronomy. It says, remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commands. Well, damn, wait a minute, y'all. Let's examine that shit. Let's look at this scientifically, because I'm trying to free people's minds, because they put the Jedi mind trick on it, y'all, all right? They put the Jedi mind trick, I'm telling you. All right, this religion is what's keeping your mind tied up where you can't even critically analyze some shit. And then they got you afraid to ask a question because some man who calls himself a preacher or somebody in a synagogue or something like that is telling you that if you ask this question in some kind of way, you going against God or something like that. You know, that's some bullshit. And tell them to come on this show, and I'll tell them it's some bullshit, and then I'll show them. All right. Now, Let's look at this and analyze this. Now, God knows everything. He's all-knowing. Why does he have to test you to see if what's in your heart, whether or not you should keep his commands? Isn't that like saying he don't know? And then here's another one I get. It's the one I get when I ask a Christian this question. Well, God does already know, but he's just seeing if you're going to know. He's going to show you something. Well, doesn't he already know? I'm going to know. Well, let's look at this. Let's take it even a step further. Didn't he know when he created me all the decisions that I was going to make, and didn't he know that I was going to end up with my ass in hell burning forever at the point when he created me? To say anything otherwise would to say that God doesn't know everything. Because when you talk about all, the all you can't add to it, because where would you get it from? And you can't take it away from it, because where would you put it? So something that is all-encompassing. So if the Creator at the point of creation made me, and he knows everything already about me and in my heart, didn't he create me to go to hell? If that's where I'm going. I mean, if we follow this mythological, reasoning, that is being proselytized all over the planet, didn't he create me to go to hell? A lot of people don't like those questions. We were taught to ask these type of questions. Now, it might seem like I'm joking or I'm having fun, but I'm being deadly serious. Because what this does is it kind of goes in, on whether or not you think for yourself. Can you think, or do you think? Do you think for yourself, or do you allow somebody else to think for you? Because if you can't ask a question, and this is how we were taught too. We were taught in our organization, don't debate with people. Ask questions. That's what you do. You don't debate. You don't have to debate with anybody. Just ask them a question. So, well, let me ask you something, brother. If God knows everything, why does he have to test you to see what's in your heart? Don't he already know? And then see what kind of answer you're going to get. And then examine the person's reasoning. This is why I will say, like religion does something to the thinking and the mind. Because you can pose those type of questions and you're going to get some sort of weird type response that because the person can't answer the question in some kind of way, you're going to get attacked or you're going to get demonized or something like this. But for utilizing common sense reasoning that the creator of the balanced universe gave you. I did this poem, and I'm going to do it for y'all again. I wrote a poem. And this is a poem about me having a conversation with the devil. It's a poem about me having a conversation with the devil. All right, I'm in the devil. We're talking because, and it's a lesson to teach you because there is a moral to the story. And I did incorporate my knowledge in this particular poem. So on the face of the poem, it's going to see like it's a Christian type thing. And I guess, it is. I guess what? This is the thing. I am Christian in the sense that I teach real Christianity because I teach what Jesus actually said. I don't go into what Paul said. The fake Christians, they put Paul before Jesus. They use Jesus' name, but they put Paul before Jesus. They follow everything. They always say Jesus, 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 but they quoting Paul, Paul, Paul. They don't, quote Jesus and use Jesus first. They kind of do it that way. So I did this poem, and what it's about this dichotomy in our thinking as opposed to this good and evil and this God and the devil and all of this kind of stuff. Because we got to address this devil. I like, once again, how Reverend Ike said that the devil is mind's misunderstanding of God, being that you are the God. What that means is when he says that, he says you don't understand that you are creating your world constantly. And that this devil that you're claiming is really you. You're the devil because you're creating this. And it's coming back at you, and you're not recognizing it, that it is your own thoughts that are attacking you. Like Buddha said, you will suffer to the degree that you blame outside circumstances. Let me kick this poem for you. Y'all want to hear this poem I wrote? Some of y'all probably, I did it before. Y'all want to hear this poem? Y'all want to hear this poem I wrote? I wrote a poem on, I'm going to say it for y'all again, and this is about a conversation that I had with the devil. It's me and the devil having a conversation. And it starts off like this. It's like, one day I was in deep meditation and I received a visit from Satan, the father of hate. And he wanted to have this conversation, which ended up with us debating. But anyway, he started off by stating that, yo, Joe, I've been waiting to talk to you. You know, I've been watching you now for, 45 years. I know all your hopes, your dreams, your fears, all your laughter and your tears, and I've come to this conclusion about you. I said, what? He said, you do have somewhat of a brain between those two ears. Which is why I want to ask you something. And I said, what? He said, are you happy with the state of your existence? And I said, well, of course, but you know the devil is known for his persistence. And he said, look, you know and I know that you know and I know that you desire certain things. You know, like the images you see in your magazines and your TV screens, fat cars, diamond rings, big booty African queens, life fit for a king. You know what I mean. But look at you. You're living life barely getting by while your friends are out hitting skins, getting high, while you're sitting here contemplating life, asking yourself why. With what? Maybe another 45 more years until you die? You deserve the good life. This you can't deny. And I know that you want it, so tell me, why you keep telling yourself a lie? So I said, well, you know, that sounds all good, and if I could get it, I would, but right now I'm locked down in the hood, and I got mouths to feed. I barely got time to read. How am I going to get what I want when I can barely get what I need? And he said, take heed, because I'm about to school you in the art of seduction and show you the finer points of corruption so you can live the good life without interruption. You see, since the dawn of man's creation, I've made his happiness my single occupation. Oh, forgive me. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Lucifer. I'm the man that shakes nations. If comfort and pleasure is what you truly do treasure, simply bow down and worship me, and I'll give you riches beyond measure. And I said, never get thee hence, Satan, for it is written, I shall never bow down before you, no matter how tempting. I worship God only, and to only he shall I listen. So please get out of my face, for your ass come up missing. So he started laughing. He says, you know what? You know, that was spoken very eloquent. You sound just like someone I know who was heaven sent. But I wonder, will you have the same sentiment when next week you can't pay your rent? He say, look, you can act like you content and act like you got all the sense. But you and I both know that the only God you truly worship is on this dead president. He said, look, Joe, God is anything or anyone who's in control. And I said, whoa, what profit a man to gain the whole world when he can lose his own soul? And then he said, what guarantees do you have that heaven is everything you was told? He said, you can't even contemplate something as simple as the nature of electricity. Yet when it comes to heaven and hell, you're quick to question me. He said, oh, how I marvel at the mortal psyche whose true gods are Adidas, Reebok, and Nike. Hypocrite, you know you're just like me. He said, look, I only want to give you everything you desire, so tell me, why you want to fight me? So I thought about it for a second, and I said, well, look, how can you give me what you don't even own? Even your very own existence is given to you on loan. It is written that man shall not live by just bread alone, and he shall surely reap for every seed that is sown. Time flows like water, here today, then it's gone. And I got no more time for idle chatter, so please, please get the hell on. So the devil, he gets a little upset at this point, and he said, man, look here. He said, you think you righteous because you sitting here quoting biblical texts? You'd flip the script like a hypocrite if I started talking about sex. These things that you seek, you most surely won't find, because when it comes to mankind, the blind surely leads the blind. You interpretate something literal without reading between the lines. You choose to walk this straight and narrow road without reading all the signs. Fool, look around you. Everything you see in this world is mine. So keep praying to your invisible God, because you're just wasting your time. So I thought about that for a second, and I said, you know what? True, true, true. You are the master of the physical and every desire for the material. But me, I'm on a quest for the spiritual. I'm seeking that conscious and subconscious connection, because I know that's where God answers all my questions and judges my confessions and gives me all my blessings. You see, I understand that God helps those who help themselves because God is in me. And that's why knowledge of self is the only key and the only truth that will make you free. You see, fame and fortune are temporary and hard times are necessary. And I know my final resting place is a long way beyond the cemetery. I know that hell is just a state and willpower decides fate, and life is just a classroom and death is just a gate. So never will I bereave when I know that I can achieve anything in this world my mind can conceive, and that knowing is the goal, and having faith in what I believe. So while you seek to deceive, causing every heart to grieve, I'm my brother's keeper when in need, because I was brought here to give and not just to receive. And with that, the conversation ended as he turned to walk away. But then he stopped to look back and smiled as if he had something else to say. But all he did was smile, which left this chill down my spine. And then there came this powerful flash of light that temporarily left me blind. But as my vision slowly returned, I saw something that made me thought I'd lost my mind. Because where there was once the face of the devil was one that looked exactly like mine. And then the realization hit me that made the answers to life much clearer. That the devil that each of us must conquer is the one looking back at you in the mirror. The name of that poem is Reflections, y'all. And this devil that you have to conquer, you look at him every day in the mirror. Yeah, I like Khalil Gibran, too. Matter of fact, I got his book right here on my desk right now. The Prophet, Khalil Gibran. Very, very good. But if y'all listen to that poem, have y'all ever, I'm going to tell you where I got the idea from that poem from. Have you ever seen the cartoons where you have the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder, and both of them are whispering in your ear? One is in one ear and one is in the other ear. That represents your conscious and subconscious mind. Thinking, thoughts that are being placed into your mind. These people who do these cartoons, they know what they're talking about. This angel and demon concept that is going on is a battle in your own mind against judgments that you have made. Doesn't it tell you in the book of Matthew, judge not, lest ye be judged? You know, let's look at that. Because a lot of people think that's talking about somebody else. But it is to a degree. But let's talk about judging. Let's talk about that for a second. To be a judge, don't you have to know everything to be a judge? I mean, if you're going to look at somebody, if you're going to judge another individual or you're going to draw conclusions, don't you have to have all the facts before you can draw an accurate conclusion? So, would you venture to say that most of the time people are drawing conclusions without all the facts? So aren't you misjudging something if you don't have all the facts? Aren't you just offering your opinion on something if you don't have all the facts? And the only way that you can obtain all the facts is if you were God? I mean, isn't that the all-knowing? Don't you have to kind of be like all-knowing, to have all the facts? Don't you have to have all the facts? Well, what if you're drawing conclusions about other things? Like, for instance, what if you've concluded that you are mortal? What if you made a judgment call and say, look, I don't have any power. I can't do anything. It's beyond my control. These people can do whatever they want to do. I don't know what to do. Wouldn't that, if you draw a conclusion like that, wouldn't that kind of be like, let me see how I can put this in words. I can say, this is like self-limiting. It's like you're self-limiting. It's like your power. You're turning your power back on yourself. It's like when you say, well, I can't do that, it's kind of like you're taking your power and turning it on yourself. It's almost like, I love that phrase that says, if you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're right. I love that because that's what that's talking about. Like, either way, you're right. Because you're the one that has the power, and you're turning the power back on yourself by saying that you can't do this, or you can't afford that, or you're incapable of doing this. Now, let me get into something. Somebody called in on another show, on Yayu's show, and they said this. They said, well, I've tried the Jonah Bays and Yusef, what they're telling us, and they're not honoring it. I always hate it when I hear that because here's the thing. Here's how I always respond to this. I'll pull them to the side, and I ask them, do you believe in what you're doing? Do you understand what you're doing? Do you know what you're doing? If you know what you're doing, you don't have to come to us and ask us for nothing. We are guides. We're giving you principles. And if you don't know and believe in what you're doing, it's not a part of you. Do you understand that? You have to be what you want to become. You can't just say, I'm this, or I'm going to do this, or have the paperwork, and it's not in you. When it gets in you, don't nobody have to tell you nothing. If somebody is still having to tell you something, it's not in you. If you're not thinking for yourself, it's not in you. You go through different stages. And we understand that. The first stage you're in is that you don't know anything. You don't know, and you don't even know that you don't know. That's usually the first stage. And then you are apprised of some information, and now you're aware of it, and now you know. But you don't know how to use it. Or you don't have understanding or overstanding. And then you start to develop overstanding, and then you begin to put it into an application, and then you gain wisdom through your experience in applying the knowledge and that you've obtained and that you overstand. You have to go through those stages. What makes individuals out there think that you have to go through something that I didn't have to go through? And also, let me tell you why else we do what we do and why I came on the air. Because when you utilize that process, that's what's going to unify the nation. Because when you find out and you know what's going on, when you really truly know, you're going to understand what you have to do and who you're going to have to stand with in order to bring about change. No longer can you use the excuse to idly sit by apathetic and let somebody else do for you what you're supposed to be doing for yourself. That's what it does. It raises your awareness. When you get out here and you start finding out information and you start trying to use it and you see what's supposed to happen and it doesn't happen that way, then you have to say, okay, well, look, we got to do some analysis here. Let me do some introspection first. Let me look at myself. Let me see if I'm being 100% honest with myself about who I am. Can you be 100% honest with yourself about who you are? Because I'm telling you, most of the people I see who come on high-frequency radio, I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people, they just looking for a fast way out. There isn't any fast way out. I have to say this over and over again. People still call me looking for it, or they'll go to another guru or something like that because they don't believe me. So I don't believe that shit, Yusef. There's some paperwork I can file and help me out. And I'm telling you, it's not. I'll say this once again. One of the most shocking things I ever saw was in a chat room, and I heard an attorney say, he said, all that stuff y'all are studying, he said, y'all supposed to be studying the law of attraction, which is the law of love. And I understood that statement so much. Do you really believe that you have power over the paperwork, or do you think it's the paperwork that has power over you? That's great. Yeah, some people said they attended the webinar. Yeah, I did that webinar kind of different. That webinar was, notice I didn't give y'all any boilerplate document. I took something, I wanted to take everything from somewhere else. Somebody give me this. First of all, I wanted y'all to see that I know this stuff. You know, I come off the top of my head. I can be sitting in a jail cell somewhere, and if somebody just give me a piece of paper and a pencil, I can do something for myself. That's where you have to get at. You have to get to the point. You got to stop copying other people's paperwork. That's not your spirit. It does not represent you. You got to start learning how to draft your own paperwork, and that's what I was showing. When you put the spiritual energy in it, it will have an effect, but you got to believe that. You got to know. No, you not believe that. You got to know that. You got to know that. You got to know that there is such thing as a spiritual entity, that spirits exist, and that this devil that you're talking about is a thought form that you're attracting, that's just redounding to yourself. It's like you're calling it evil, but it's your fears, your doubts that are springing back and attacking you. And it's not that it's evil, it's just what you put out there. The universe will give you whatever you want. You want fear, you want doubt, so that's what you get back. That's how much of your love is being showed on you. It doesn't discriminate. Well, wow, this is what you want. This is what's right. Like I said, we got some pain freaks out there. We got people who actually relish feeling miserable. That gives them comfort to be able to blame someone else. Oh, look what they did to us. Come with me and sit with me, brother. Share and drink from the pool of my pain and my misery. Look what they're doing to us. It's their fault that we're in the condition that we're in. We can do nothing for ourselves. We're weak. We need to lean on Jesus. Jesus will help us. There's nothing we can do without Jesus. Lord Jesus, help me. I can't do nothing without you, Jesus. Help me. Answer my. This is what we in. It's like you have the power over all things. God manifests through you. I've asked this question on some other shows, and I'm interested in getting a response right now. Would God exist if you didn't exist? Would God exist if you didn't exist? Now I know the person who's not a critical thinker is going to answer the question quickly. Like, yeah. Just like, sometimes you do this. If you want to do this, y'all do this on people. This is going to tell you about people's psyche. Y'all go out, I want you to test this on people. I want you to test this on people because it's going to tell you where their mind is at. You go up to a person and ask them, Which one is heavier, a pound of flour or a pound of gold? Or go and ask them, which one is heavier, a pound of flowers or a pound of gold? Or a pound of feathers or a pound of gold? Which one is heavier? And you're going to be amazed at how many people say gold. And it right there is going to show you how many people actually listen. Because the majority of people are going to say gold. A couple of people will hear what you say and say they are the same. They're both a pound. Because they're a critical thinker. They're going to analyze what you say. But do that. Test that for me. Go up to people and just real quick say, look, brother, which one is heavier, a pound of flour or a pound of gold? A gold, man, what are you talking about? You said very clearly a pound, but they're not going to hear that. People don't stop to think. Do another one to them. Say, spell silk, S-I-L-K. What do cows drink? And they'll say milk. No, cows don't drink milk. Cows drink water, But you can condition someone's mind for responses. You can condition people's minds for certain types of responses. And this is what they do in religion. You've been conditioned. That's why you hear all Christians make the same arguments or say the same things, and they've never been subjected it to critical analysis. Give another example, what I'm talking about. In the Bible, it says that Satan was kicked out of heaven, right? Was he kicked out of heaven? Somebody answer me right now. He was kicked out of heaven. All right, this is what they say. Even though it says the dragon. But he was kicked out of heaven. But then in Job, let's read this. We got to read this. We have to read this. We have to ask. This is a critical analysis, all right? It's critical analysis. When we go to Job 1, chapter 1, verse 6, and it says, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou?" Now here we have the all-knowing. Now, I'll buy into what you're saying that God, I'll give a little credence to. I don't buy into it. But you say when God tests you, he's trying to make you see something about yourself, and all that right there. Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give y'all that one. Okay, now what's happening right here? Now, Satan was with God. He already know God. He knows everything about God. There's nothing, that Satan, God don't need to test Satan or nothing like that. So right here, we have God asking Satan, where has he been? Now, are you trying to tell me that there can be a time where God don't know where the devil is at? he can be doing something to you, and you got to God help me, and then God look back, look over there. Oh, the devil's got one of my people. Let me send somebody back down there to, help him out. Is that what I'm supposed to get from this story right here? Okay, we got to subject this to critical analysis now. I'm not trying to be funny, because this is a question. God is all-knowing. So why is God asking the devil, where has he been? Just like he did Adam and Eve in the garden. Who told you? Where are you? Who told you that? What have you done? All these questions, And it's a funny thing that they put Lord here. Some places they put God. Some places they put Lord. Some places they put Elohim. Some places they put Yahuwah, Elohim, whatever, Yahweh, whatever. But right here, okay, so it says, then Satan answered the Lord and said, and from going to and fro in the earth and from walking up and down in it, all right, and then the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil? All right. And Satan answered the Lord and said, doth Job fear God for naught? Have not thou made a hedge about him and put his house and about him, and hast on every side thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. Now this is real interesting, because right here, he asked him, have you been down in earth walking around? Because, the whole argument, with Satan and God is Satan is saying, and you have to read the Quran to get this, that Shaitan, Iblis, is saying that the human beings are not worthy. He was asked to bow down to the humans. He said, I'm not going to bow down to him. He's a man of clay. I'm from the north of the moon, the smokeless fire. I'm greater than he is. So the whole thing is not God versus the devil insofar as it is this devil that everybody's made the devil trying to show God that man is not worthy of his love. And man are doing this every day. All right, so this is why this question comes about, because now, God is on the losing end. He's like, damn, ain't nobody doing nothing, but he's always come back. Well, look, I got one down there. I got one. I know you got everybody else, but there's one down there, Did you see him? So, Lucifer come back and he say, well, man, check this out, man. You know what it is, man. You got a gun to his head. You know what I'm saying? He's only worshiping you because you give him everything. Look what you do. I keep worshiping you too. Take it all away and see what happened, So then they make a bet. So now we have in the Bible gambling, right? We got gambling. We have to subject this to critical analysis now. Wait a minute, hold on. Is somebody trying to tell me this is not gambling? Is this not gambling? It's gambling, y'all. Okay, he's gambling. All right? This is about this devil now. We're examining this devil. He's making a bet. Okay? He's making a bet, and God said, word, just don't kill him. All right? He made the bet. All right, now, we all know the story of how it went. I'm not here to go deeply into the story or anything like that. But what I am here is to subject things to critical analysis and ask you, are you asking questions when you read these stories? And let me tell you where I'm going with this. When you look at the Bible, all right, and this God and devil concept, and if you take the word good, take away an O from it, you get God, and add a D to evil, you get devil. This good and evil concept, which are just simply polarities of one another, and you ascribe some sort of, you actually take power away from yourself. When you look at all these different stories and all these different things and don't understand the symbology that's behind it, you have to understand that your thoughts are things, that the number one power in the natural universe is your mind. I asked you the question earlier, would God exist if you didn't exist? Now, let me explain that to people, because I know we have some people, sure, more. Allah doesn't need you to exist, But you're the God. Think about that. What if you've been fooled into believing that you're not, that the reason they're giving this God and devil concepts is to keep you from the realization that you are the portal through which God manifests, that nothing would come into existence if it didn't come through you? Doesn't God need something to reflect himself off of? Doesn't he need, this is what they say, the state of nothingness, when then you have movement. It's like, some people say, well, God manifested, made creation so he can experience himself upon himself. Well, isn't that done through you? Think about that. And I like it, and what I'm proposing also is being echoed in the book called The Master. I want y'all to think about that for a second. The only limits are the ones that you set for yourself. So, you are limited. Think about this now. Can you create a color that doesn't already exist? I know some people are, yeah, more. I'm like, no, you can't. Because you have all the colors are basically based off the primary colors, and you'd have to produce a new primary color. Could you produce a new primary color that doesn't already exist? it's hard for you to imagine something that you haven't already experienced. So the limits that are on you are the limits of your imagination. So if you can conceive it and believe it, you can achieve it. If it's conceivable, anything that you can conceive, you can do. Now, doesn't that make you like a god or a goddess? Anything that you can conceive, and believe, because you have to put the emotion behind it. You have to put energy in motion. That's what the motion is, energy in motion, because there is no creation without motion. That's what they mean with the differentiated and undifferentiated. There is no creation without movement. So when you put energy in motion, you have creation. When energy becomes stagnant, it ceases to exist. So you have to put the energy in motion behind the thought to bring in manifestation, to bring things into creation. So when you're thinking and you believe it, you put the energy in it, you can create anything. You can do and believe and achieve whatever you want to believe. Let's look at the Bible real quick. I always do this again. In Mark 11:22 through 26, it tells them that. He said, nothing shall be impossible for you. Nothing shall be impossible for you. So now let me bring this back down to the paperwork now. The paperwork that everybody's always asking me about. Because, I get these questions. We did what you said do, and it didn't work. Me and Jonah are not looking for worshipers. I'm not looking to be worshipped. I'm not your God, right? Don't talk to me like that. Don't talk to me like you're a blind follower. Don't come to me and say, I did exactly what you said do, but it didn't work. Yes, I dotted the I's, I crossed the T's, I took it over there and I gave it to them, but it didn't work. They didn't honor it. I want you to think. I'm trying to teach you how to think for yourself. I'm trying to help you get your power back, get your mojo back, okay? That's what I'm trying to help you do. You have to be that what you wish to become. You have to be that first. It has to be in you. Everything comes outward, comes from the inside out, not the outside in. So if you're listening to me, that's idol worship. When you begin to think for yourself, and then the processes begin to make sense to you, and then you start to manifest it from the inside out, and you start to let your creativity. I was telling somebody today, they asked me a question about, filing some paperwork in a certain way. I said, look, none of this stuff is written in stone. I said, I got a creative process that I'm making up right now, that I'm doing, I'm about to test. Use your creativity. Don't be afraid to those thoughts and images that you have in your mind. Don't be afraid to give life to that. What are you afraid of? Any mistake that you make can be cured because all you got to do is change your mind. Really, I'm going to tell you here, it's supposed to be, y'all are supposed to be having fun. Existence is supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be happy. Now, let's think about that because we are talking about this devil. I guess in a certain sense, we would have to label that a devil that doesn't want you to do that. But is it really a devil? Or is it just some sort of entity that feeds off of what you call negativity? Because, of course, we can all see that the world is not a fun place. We're not having fun. Well, some people are. There are people who are living and having their heaven on earth. Trust me. All right? And we need to get there too. But what they have done is, why would anybody not want somebody to be happy? Why would people want other people to be in misery? that particular individual would have to be some sort of aberrant type creation in itself as well. It's like, why wouldn't you just want everything? Why wouldn't you want a utopia? Why wouldn't you want everybody to be happy? Not to say that life is not interesting with challenges. It's just something I'm pondering. Y'all forgive me. I'm just kind of like, going in and out. But I'm going to go to the phone lines. Y'all know how I do it. I want to know what y'all think about this devil. I want to know what y'all think about God. I want to know what you think about the Bible. These stories in the Bible. In the Bible, I'm going to be honest with you. In the Bible, to me, God doesn't seem all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-present. He doesn't seem to possess those particular qualities when I read the Bible. Now, I will say this, that I know that the Creator does possess all of those qualities. He has to. But the description that is being fed to me in this book, I'll have to take pause and analyze it. And then I have to do some comparative religious study and then find out that these same stories are in older manuscripts. However, the representations are not the same. In those books, God is not being represented as the all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-present. He's being represented as an entity that is just like you, that has evolved many millions of years beyond you to a point where your concept of God would fit that description. However, you are in the process of evoluting toward that same destination. So what you're looking at is really your brother that's just further down the road than you are, both of which are subject to the creative force that emanates and permeates the entire universe, what you would really call God. Let me go to the phone lines. I want to see what y'all think about this. This devil. I think that the devil is in your own mind. I agree with Reverend Ike that the devil is mind's misunderstanding of God. Who is God? Interesting. Let's go to the phone lines. I'm going to go, first of all, I'm going to dip over to Pennsylvania. I ain't talked to Pennsylvania in a while. 267-4350, Pennsylvania. You're on the air.
Hey, what's up?
You want to chime in?
Yeah, I want to chime in. How you doing? Hey,
great, bro. What's going on?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I wanted to comment on a few things. First, I want to give you props for your poem. I actually love that poem, man. You should actually publish that. That's great. I mean, that's great. It's not good. It's great. First time I ever heard that. And I wanted to talk about you. When I first got the call, you was doing a poem, and then you mentioned about the negotiable instruments and about making it, using your spirit to make it work. And people have told me similar things. They've said, "Well, I sent in an instrument and it didn't work." So then I asked them, "Okay, if you took $300,000 of Federal Reserve notes out your closet and you gave it to your mortgage company, and they didn't credit your account or give you what you're supposed to buy or purchase, what would you do?" They said, "Well, I'll go crazy. I call the police. I call the trustman. I do everything." I said, "Exactly. So treat your negotiable instrument like you would treat Federal Reserve notes."
That was an excellent analogy. Why you don't have that same emotion that for your negotiable instrument as you do for Federal Reserve notes? Because you don't believe they carry the same weight. You don't believe it in your mind.
Exactly. And then when I tell people that, they start to get the sense of it. But we have to believe it. And when people will say it doesn't work, then you don't believe that you actually gave, lawful money, or you don't actually believe that you satisfied the alleged obligation that you're supposed to have. You don't believe it.
They don't believe it,
and
that's because they don't know it, and they don't believe it because they don't know it. They're just following instructions, and that's what the Merovingian was saying in the Matrix. He said, you're just a link in the chain. You're real good at following instructions, but you're not involved in the cause. There isn't any power in the effect. It's only power in the cause. All right, so and the cause of all things is spiritual. Let me tell you what I use. I use an analogy for people who claim who don't have power, or say they can't do something or something like that. Well, I can't do that, brother. And I use this analogy. I said there was once a counselor to the king, and the king wanted the counselor to learn how to concentrate. And the counselor told the king, I cannot concentrate. I just can't do it. So the king said, okay, all right. So he called one of his guards over and told him, he said, get him a plate and a glass of water, and I want you to fill the glass of water all the way up to the top. And he put the glass of water on the plate, and then he told him, he said, look, I want you to walk all the way around the kingdom, and I don't want you to spill one drop of water on that plate. I'm going to you're going to walk all the way around the kingdom and don't spill one drop of water. Then he told his guard with him to go with him. He said, look, I want you to go with him, and I want you to watch him. If he spills one drop of water, I want you to cut his head off and bring it back to me. So he walked all the way around the kingdom, came back before the king without drying. He said, Your Majesty, I did as you commanded. I walked around the entire empire, and I didn't spill one drop of water. And then the king told him, I knew you could learn how to concentrate. See, that's how, people find out what their power is when it's time to focus or fold. When the chips are on the line and your back is up against the wall. The things that you can't do or you think you can't do, when it comes in need, you can make it happen. That's the energy that you're supposed to have and you're supposed to access to make something work for you. I heard somebody else say, it said, you got to want something like you want air. If I put your head underwater, that guy gave another example. He just took the guy's head and put it underwater, held him underwater until his breath was running out, and he just wanted air so bad he let him back up to breathe the air. He said, that's why you have to want your goals and achieve things. You have to have that type of passion flowing through you. If you're just, I tried it, it didn't work. Okay. It didn't work. I can see why. Look at the energy I'm looking at your spirit. Look at your spirit. Even in court. This is the thing about in court. People go to court. I went to court, it didn't work. When you go to court with those people. Watch how many people freeze up. They get scared, or they just read from a piece of paper. They go in there and read. I had somebody, he was trolling on my Facebook page. Look, here's me in court. Where are you in court? He's in court reading from a piece of paper. You're reading from a piece of paper. You're not conversant with this. If some judge comes up against you, he can tell what your spirit is, that you're just repeating something somebody told you to say, or whether you really know what you're talking. They know the difference between a person who knows what their rights are and a person who's been told what their rights are. You don't think they know that? Because when you know what your rights are, you don't have to come to Yusef or Jonah Bay and ask me shit. That's where we're trying to get y'all back to. That's what spiritual classes are for. That's what standing on your square means. That you're sure you know the truth. And that's what's going to make you free. Go ahead, brother. Go on and finish. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
That's cool. That's cool. And then you brought out something interesting about the story about Job and the Creator, or Job and God.
Right.
That was interesting because I have to admit, me being an avid reader of the Bible, I have to admit that it was gambling involved. It was gambling.
Right.
I never looked at it that way, but it was a gamble between God and Satan. And it's interesting because the Bible says not to be involved in a god of luck, but then it was actually happening right there. you know what?
I can take it. I could take it and twist it though the other way, because like I shoot pool, and here's what hustlers say: real hustlers don't gamble. Do you know what that means? When a hustler says that, a real hustler does not gamble.
It means he's confident. He knows he's going to win.
He knows he's going to win. He's already looked at his mark, did all his background work, and he knows he's going to win. He knows it's not a gamble. So when he puts his money on the table, it's not a gamble. So I could apply that in this situation right here, that God wasn't gambling. You know, we could put it in that sense. That he's like, look, I know what you know not. You know, that's in the Quran. That's actually what he told Iblis. He said, when they asked him, "You going to make a man weak and cause distress?" He said, "Look, I know what you know not." So I could twist it around and say that too. However, you're absolutely right. This is a gamble, and the way that the story is being presented. First of all, like I said, I thought, where are they at? Are they on earth? Or are they in heaven? Because all it says is the sons of God presented themselves before the Lord one day, and then Lucifer came amongst them. I thought he was cast out of heaven. Why is he here in with the rest of them again, strolling in, making a bet?
Well, Yusuf, being from my Christian background, I've always been taught that this was before the devil got kicked out of heaven. So he was speaking. He was in heaven.
Wait a minute. So obviously this is man has been created, and he's been on the planet for a while, because this is the time of Job. All right. So this story in Revelations wasn't before, creation of the war. You're trying to say the war in heaven didn't happen before man was created. It was, it was happened after we were created. That's what you're being told.
I mean, that's what I was taught. So I didn't really challenge it, because I was always taught that it came afterwards.
Hold on. All right. Now, was the devil talking to Eve in the garden? Was that the devil?
Yes.
Okay, that's the devil. Okay, let's look at that story. All right. I'm riding off of what you just said. Okay. Now, when we go over here and look at this in Genesis chapter 3. And after the devil tricks Eve and God starts cussing everybody out, he cusses out the devil. I guess this is the devil. It never says anywhere in the story that this is the devil. It's the serpent. And in Hebrew, it's a nakash, which means a whispering entity or being of some sort. But for somehow it got construed as the devil. But when we go to 14, it says, "And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all the cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly thou shalt go, and dust thou shalt eat all the days of thy life." Now, and here's the kicker. He said, "I will put enmity," which means hatred, "between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed." The word seed here is nasalah in Hebrew, and it means offspring. So right here, it is saying that the woman is going to have offspring, and the serpent is going to have offspring. And it shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Okay, now, I can only interpret this a couple of ways. First, we can say that this is a literal snake, and that women have been afraid of snakes from this point on. It's something like that. You can interpret it like to give it a literal interpretation, that there's some snake, that the snakes, the reason they crawl in their belly right now is because one time they had legs and could talk, but now they don't have no legs and can't talk, and now the woman, children, and the snake, we afraid of each other, something like that. Or this is the devil all right, who's being cast down to eat dust in the earth or something like that. I don't know. But whatever it is, if this is the devil, later on, he's strolling into amongst God and the angels as if none of this shit ever happened. Any comment on that?
No, I'm just listening. But that scripture, Revelation 12:9. That's the reason why people will refer to the serpent as a devil, because it does mention that in Revelation 12:9.
I understand. Yeah, and I'm familiar with that. That's fine. That's fine.
So,
and you're right.
Yeah.
That old serpent called the devil. Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it came from. But I'm learning, for the first time, about esoteric teachings and understanding more about what the Bible is all about. But I was just saying, from my Christian background, it's always been toward that the conversation that the devil had with God was in one time period, and then him coming out of heaven or getting kicked out of heaven was another time period, which is considered modern time. So when you taught that way, you don't really challenge it, because if it's two time periods, then it's not as hard to disbelieve it. Makes a little more sense if it's two time periods. So
here's the thing I have. It makes me wonder about what's being said right there, because the Bible is written in different time frames. You talk about the Book of Revelations. Right, the Book of Revelations came 4,000 years after the Book of Genesis. The Book of Revelations was written in the year 96 by John on the island of Patmos. It was given to him by an angel sent from Jesus, because God gave it to him. You see that in Revelation chapter 1. So you got a 4,000-year time frame difference before we even get to this story about this old serpent and everything like that, being cast out of heaven and all of this. But these stories up here, we don't see no story like that at all, but these stories right here. Now, granted, when you start doing comparative religious study, you will see this story, and it makes it much more clear who this serpent man is. When you go start studying the 7 tablets of creation, the Atrahasis, the Gilgamesh epics, the Enuma Elish, all these different things out of Sumeria, you will see it's the same stories that are in the Bible that predate the Bible by 10,000 years. My point in saying all this to you, and why am I doing this? Because people will start trying to cast the devil title on me for telling the truth. But I'm going to tell the truth. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to start to open up your mind, because it's the same thing that happened to me. I was just like you, brother. I was Christianized, and just, in this way. But I loved the Bible, and I always had this. One thing about people who are in any type of religion, who are sincere seekers and sincerely trying to find God or do what's right or improve themselves or better themselves, is that at the end of the day, that's what they're trying to do, is that they really have a authentic need to want to serve God or want to find God or learn more about God. All right. Then you have some people, they not really about that. They are just really trying to proselytize whatever belief they have, because they got some alternative agenda. Maybe it's to make themselves look superior to someone else, make themselves look more intelligent than someone else, or just to be right. Because being right is not humble. Being right is concerned with, pride, things of that nature. But when you're a sincere seeker and you're looking for the truth, you're going to critically analyze things that are put before your face. So it wasn't until someone opened my eyes and started making me critically analyze what I was believing in most of my life that I began to question things. And then when I started to look at other things, I'm like, you know what? This is not really what I thought it was. And then you begin to see, why is the purpose of this then? Why would somebody turn the story around and give me this story like this? What's the reason for it? And what you're going to find is that you have to be given these stories because the power that you possess, this light that shineth in the darkness and the darkness comprehended it not, it has to be focused on outside things in order for other people to have dominion over you so they can institute this thing called slavery. That's the only way you can enslave a man. You have to get his mind first. Slavery begins with a mental condition. No man can be a slave that's been freed, mentally free. Look at that movie, Django. Go back and watch that movie. At the end of the movie, Django, after he blew up Quentin Tarantino, he go back over to the cage where they was traveling in and opens the cage up and leave it open and ride. He done shot everybody and ride off. The slaves are so scared that they sat there waiting for somebody, another white man, to come with the cage door open and refused to move. That's what you have today. You have mental prisons all around you today. They don't have to put you in a cage or watch over you or anything like that because they know they got everybody under control. They have created a system that is very, very effective in controlling the mind. And I like how Carter G. Woodson, he said it. He said, you no longer have to tell a man to go back to go sit at the back of the bus. He said when you condition his mind right, when he get on the bus, he go back without being told to do so. He knows where his place is. And that's what's happening when you have people who you cannot ask questions to without them trying to label you as some sort of demon or something like that. I'm asking a common sense question. And God gave me common sense, okay? He gave me the ability of discernment to ask questions. So I'm questioning this right now. All right? I'm asking you a question. How did he make the sun, moon, and stars on the fourth day? What was a day? What did we use to calculate days if there were no sun, moon, and stars? I'm just asking. It's not, and it's not to say there's not an answer to the question, but it's a very valid question. What was calculated as a day? What did the devil lie in the Bible? Right there it says, the day you eat of the tree, that day you shall surely die. He didn't die. Well, then God said, well, you did die. You started to die spiritually. Or you lost your ability for everlasting life. No, you didn't. It was never given to you. Because right in the same chapter, he says, now let's get him out of the garden before you eat from the tree of life and live forever. You hadn't even been given everlasting life.
Well, you know, Yusef always been
access to the tree. Huh?
Yeah, always been toward that, you know, what it says in the Bible that a year of God is 1,000 years. So because Adam died at 932 years of age, he did die in that day.
And I've heard that, and let me tell you this, I have heard that said 1,000 times too, that no man lived past 1,000 years after the day. Methuselah was the oldest person, 969 years or something like that, was the longest a man lived. No one lived after a day to God. Now, my next question is just, okay, how did you calculate 1,000 years if there were no sun, moon, and stars? How did you calculate time? It's just a question. You know, it's a question that nobody wants to ask. But this is how you come into your godhood, by you start to ask questions. Start asking questions. And so let me question this stuff. Let me give you another question. Let me pose another one. Since you read the Bible a lot, right?
Yeah, a lot.
Okay. Well, let me ask you another question. Paul. Okay, the Christian church, the entire Christian church, and this is one of the things that began that made me start to question things. Is this man Paul he was trying to kill Jesus. Jesus never met him, but he became one of the greatest of all the disciples. Now, you have the Apocrypha, and they have conspicuously left out the other books of some of the other disciples out of the Bible. One primarily is the book of Barnabas that tells an entirely different story. But they left that out of the Bible, and they've replaced it with these 13 letters. That's what they are. They're not books. They're letters of Paul, what they call an epistle of the Apostle Paul, and put this in here. Now, then they add this man named Luke, who is a physician and sidekick of Paul, who also never met Jesus. And he says this in Luke 1:1 when he asks, okay, well, why did you write your book? Okay, he tells you why he wrote the book. Because they'll say, well, all books are divinely, and then what they say, all books are divinely inspired? And then what they say?
Correct. Yes.
All right. Well, right here, he says, for as much as many have taken in hand to set forth in order a declaration of those things which are most surely believed amongst us, even as they delivered them unto us from the very beginning, were eyewitnesses and ministers of the word, it seemed good to me also, having had perfect understanding of all things from the very first, to write unto thee in order, most excellent Theophilus. Now, I don't see anything in there about being divinely inspired. He's saying that there were some witnesses that witnessed all of this happen. All right. He heard what happened. He felt like he had a good understanding of it, and so he's going to write his version of the story. It seemed good to him to do that. Nowhere in this book does he say that he was inspired to write this book, which is another reason when you read all four of the Gospels, they all contradict. How many people came to remove the stone, and it was two angels, then one angel in one. And then, you get all these different stories, that I could go into and show you all the different versions of the gospel. Now, yes, I'll buy into it that, okay, these were written by men, and they may have gotten the story wrong, but the point is that we're supposed to pull out the principles that are being discussed in there, and I'm all for that. I'm for that. That's cool. I don't have a problem with that. But, open that door for me. But yet and still, when you see these things, okay, now, Luke, why am I talking about Luke? Luke was the sidekick of the Apostle Paul, all right, and he had a hand in writing the book of Acts, because he had to write the book of Acts because Paul said he met Jesus on the roadside, had this miraculous encounter with Jesus, and he told him to go to the Gentiles, and he started his mission to the Gentiles, which I hope every Christian out there is acutely aware of, that those 13 epistles are for the Gentiles. That's why you see Romans, Corinth, Galatia, all these places, everywhere where the Gentiles are. Now, I'm not a Gentile, because in Matthew chapter 10, verse 5, it says that don't go to the Gentiles or the Samaritans. That was a direct order from Jesus, which is why none of the other apostles did that. Except Peter, who kept flip-flopping whenever the apostles wasn't around, and Paul called him out on it. All right? But he said don't go to the Samaritans or the Gentiles. Now, if you consider yourself a Gentile, which I don't consider myself a Gentile. I'm not a lawless individual, all right? So to follow that doctrine, that is the doctrine of the Gentile. So you're saying that you're a Gentile, that you're not one of the chosen people. And you have allowed someone else, as it says in Revelations 2:9, I know the blasphemy of those who call themselves Jews who are not, but are the synagogues of Satan. You done let somebody else creep in and steal your identity, and they took your identity and gave you theirs. And now you taking their identity and you utilizing their doctrine. Now I have one thing I want to say. In Acts chapter 9, there's a contradiction, and I always pose this to the Christians because this is a foundational story. All right, that everything rests on. That he met Jesus on the roadside and it tells this story of what happened. And he also, like they say in law, like it says in the Old Testament, you have to have some witnesses. So he had to have some witnesses to this. So then what he says, when he tells the story, he says, He says, and he journeyed, he came near to Damascus, and I'm at 9:3, and suddenly there shined around about him a light from heaven, and he fell to earth, and he heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest me? That was his name. His name was Saul, which is Hebrew. Paul is a Greek name. All right. And he fell to earth and heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecutest me? And he said, Who art thou, Lord? And the Lord said, I'm Jesus, whom thou persecutest. It is hard for thee to kick against the pricks. And he, trembling and astonished, said, Lord, what will you have me to do? And the Lord said unto him, Arise and go into the city, and it shall be told to thee what thou must do. And the men, now here's the one right here. Here's the one, 7. And here are the eyewitnesses. This is the eyewitness account, the eyewitnesses that saw this. And the men which journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no man. All right, they heard a voice, but they didn't see a man. Now, they tell this same story again in 22. When we go to Acts chapter 22, the same story is told again. I ain't telling it again. But this time, we get something a little different. We get right here. And he said, he fell under 22:7, and he fell to the ground. He heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, what persecuted me? And I answered, Who art thou, Lord? He did say unto me, I'm Jesus of Nazareth, whom persecutest. And they that were with me saw indeed the light and were afraid, but they heard not the voice of him that spake to me. Now, one of them heard the voice that spoke. They heard what he said in 9:7. But in 22:9, they didn't hear what he said. I can go on. I can go into Matthew where Judas hung himself. And then I get into Acts chapter 2, and it says he threw himself off of a cliff. But y'all, in the Christian church, y'all don't want to talk about this. But everything in that book needs to be discussed. If you're going to empower yourself, because if you're ready for the truth, truth is my religion. Either it's true or it's not true. Now, I'm not pointing all of this out to try to tear down the Bible, because the Bible obviously has a very strong purpose. If it is read and understood in its proper context, it's a very powerful book. However, the way that they are utilizing it right now is to disempower you, to make you blind worshipers and mindless worshipers, and never to look inside of you and find out that the power is inside, that God manifests through you, that you have this power, and this power is derived from the way that you think. Your thoughts are the power. And you're going to find this out, because everybody that's the first principle of natural law, is mentalism. It's the first one. It's law number 1, mentalism. Everything, it comes through creation from a thought. And you have to learn how to control your thoughts to be able to do constructive creation. And if you cannot control your thoughts, you're going to bring about chaos in your life. And you're going to label that chaos the devil. Because you haven't learned how to discipline yourself. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Or am I just talking?
Well, that makes a lot of sense. That scripture you just showed me, I read this so many times, I never saw that contradiction. And that's one of the things that's the biggest problem I have with religion, especially Christianity. They always, like I agree, they take the power away from you. They don't never teach that the power is within you. They don't teach the law of attraction. And that's what Jesus taught, and I think it was Mark 11, 23 and 24. Whatever you think about.
22 to 26. Yeah. That is the law of attraction. That is the formula for the law of attraction that you can utilize in a religious sense. That's the power of prayer. Prayer is focusing on positive things, and prayer is powerful because prayer helps you focus the mind. That's why even in Islam, the Prophet Muhammad was having them do it 7 times a day. They reduced it to 5 times a day. But initially it was 7 times a day. It helps you focus your mind. And when you start focusing the mind, when you're in a constant state of... That's why some things Christians do works. They may not know it works, or they haven't broken down scientifically because they've been taught to demonize science or not to look at something from a scientific point of view, which is another thing that makes them fall into this thing of spookism. They don't understand that magic is a science. Like your computer that you're on, or your telephone, or your television. If you were to take this back 100, 200 years ago, they would probably burn you at the stake. You would be looked at as engaged in damn witchcraft. But you've been acclimated to this technology, and it's no big deal to you. It's the same thing when you get into the mystical sciences. When you start getting into esoteric sciences, once you become acclimated to it, it's just like television or the telephone. Telepathy is not a big deal. Thought transference. Psychometry is not a big deal. Clairvoyance is not a big deal. Higher intuitive skills and capabilities is not a big deal. Those are just senses that you all possess to a greater or lesser degree, and they can be developed to a greater degree. And you can begin to do things that other people looking on the outside will start to call amazing, or witchcraft, or Satanism, or whatever they want to try to label they want to put on it. When it's simply you coming in and tuning into yourself and learning how to manipulate nature, but by learning its mechanical operation. 3 magi that visited Jesus. Do you know what a magi is?
No, you can tell me.
A magician. A magician. A person who has reached the highest level of spiritual development. Today, y'all have given the word magician to the illusionist. Those are not the true magicians. Some of them may be. I'm getting some information that some of them are practicing real magic right in front of your face, like David Blaine and a couple of other guys. They're really doing things right in front of your face. This is real stuff that they're doing. It's not an illusion. They're stepping on stage doing stuff. But a true magician understands the forces of nature, understands their operation, understands their cause and effect, understands vibrational frequencies, understands, hell, if you're an alchemist, you should know the periodic table of elements. If you would just study the periodic table of elements, you could understand how to turn lead into gold. Simply by changing and rearranging the atomic structure. These are things that we had the ability to do. These are things that we still have the capability to do. We just have to learn what it is. And religion, or religare, which means to tie back, is something that keeps you from going down that path and experiencing what real spirituality is all about by putting labels on things and making it something that you don't want to get into, when these judges, these lawyers and attorneys, they're all practicing this. Hell, Nancy Reagan, Ronald Reagan's wife, she got caught dead-handed practicing astrology. Now, she got caught. You don't think the rest of them do it? All of them are engaged in these sciences. They don't want you doing the sciences, because he who serves on the higher gets to rule on the lower. The people who serve and understand and obey higher laws gets to institute lower laws for the heathen, those who don't understand what the laws of nature are. That is a heathen. That is a Gentile. That's not us. That's not our heritage. That's not our history. That's all I'm saying. I'm going to leave the mic open. Let me jump over to Texas real quick. 972-2558. Peace to the guys.
Salam Elohim, Brother Yusef.
Walaikum salam, brother.
Brother Yahya Muhammad, my goodness, man. You know, this is a very simple class. I mean, it's been going over and over for so many. Since we allowed to read openly in the public,
right.
We should have got this lesson years and years ago. We have many teachers that are before us that's teaching. I never heard Reverend, I think it was Reverend ICKE put on there. I never heard about him. I've heard of him, but I never listened to him. But that's simple. You know, you got Malachi Z. York and his family that are talking about God being, you look at the G and the O or square and the circle. All we got to do is Google that. Very simple. Not be lazy, very simple, and apply it. It's all there. To talk about who is God, what is God, it'll take us another probably 100 years before people actually say, I want to change, I want to know, and really be responsible for their own actions. Now, I come to the conclusion, in dealing with myself, that God is pretty much simply, you are the God of your own world. You are the God of your own world, meaning what? You know, and adding to that, there is no mystery God, just work. There is no mystery God. This is something I tell my children, I tell brothers and sisters, hey, that gives me their ear. There is no mystery God, just work, and you are the God of your own word. You are responsible. You are responsible. You are the guide, you are responsible. Now, with this devil thing, brother, this devil, I've always put a definition on devil, meaning something that opposes the will of Allah or Allah and the spirit of Allah or Allah. Meaning the will, meaning law, meaning the letter, and the spirit. You know, you have the letter or you have the spirit, which you already discussed. That some individuals that come to you, they're asking for a letter, but they don't want to adopt the spirit, the mind of what they're doing. So they're just still empty. They lose it anyway. They got the letter, but they don't have the spirit. You know, so that's my definition of.
I have to ask a question, though, okay? Because I hear a lot of Muslims say this, and they're correct. The statement is a correct statement. I'm gonna say this first. The will of Allah. All right, they said, you know, the will of Allah. What is the will of Allah? What does that mean? What is the will of Allah?
Well, okay, I take it three steps. Based how I came into the understanding, because it was a puzzle to me too. Allah one-on-one. Arm, leg, arm, head.
Right.
That's what was given to me. I walk with it. Okay, I can walk with that. Allah, 1 + 1. It's you have the masculine, al, and the feminine, la. Okay. Okay, now one time one, Allah. One time one. You really understand this is Allah. Allah is the complete total sum of yourself. That's coming from your brother. The complete total sum of yourself. And if you cannot dig into that, feel in that, then I lost it.
I like that. I like that explanation, and I even like the arm, leg, arm, head. I mean, you know, that was the doctrine of the 5 percenters I read years ago in the 5% Nation. And let me say this, that you are Allah, because Allah is all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-present. Think about this. Ponder on this. Let me approach it from this way. Has anyone ever stopped to think about the incredible, the miracle of life? When you stop and you think about you being alive and look at your hands, how they move, and, I mean, the human body in itself is a creation of, I mean, if you just sit here and just really, it should just make you think about the awe of your own creation and the wonder and the splendor and your ability to think and how you got thoughts in your mind and how you can make decisions to do things and how you can experience pleasure and pain and all these different things. I mean, the wonder of life is something, and nobody has been able to emulate it. There hasn't been anybody who can pull something out of nothing and create life from nothing. They can all they can do is they can take spirit that already exists, like in the blood or in the semen, and clone it, but they can't not start at the very beginning and do it at from nothing, bring it from a state of nothingness into creation. This thing called life, this spirit. And so you have to stop and think about, well, okay, if Allah is all present And this spirit, this is the thing they call the spirit, the nephesh, is inside of you. It's everywhere. But it's in you too. And it's like, okay, it's like, well, then this God force, I share in the same quality of this God force. Maybe not the same quantity, but there cannot be anything that is in God that is not in me. You see what I'm saying? Because he took everything of himself, a portion of himself, and put that in you. So if a portion of that was pushed in you, you share in those qualities. Now, the next thing we have to do is we have to break down, well, what are those qualities? And if we're talking about something spiritual, the only spiritual thing and activity that a spirit can engage in is thought.
Well, Brother Yusef, what you just spoke about is simply boils down to what you've been teaching, whether you be teaching on the letter or the spirit, it's called law. I learned from the Moorish Science Temple of Allah means all law. I can accept that. What you're speaking of, all law.
I agree with that.
Law.
I've never heard it quite put like that, but the principle in it is sound. So, I accept it.
Well, look at it. If somebody comes to me, or if I'm, and I did it, and like I said before, I take it to a universal blanket. I take it all over the world and look at it. If someone says that this is a messenger of Allah, I say, okay, I got to take it through all the schools, everything I've already proclaimed to be true. Now, if he's the messenger of Allah, okay, what law is he bringing? If he brought no law, then how can he be the messenger of Allah? The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him,
I say now you're gonna start an argument, a heated argument, because I'm kind of like this with the Moorish Science Temple, because they call the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And I'm not saying he's not a prophet and everything. Obviously, he's made some excellent contributions. But the book, the Quran Circle 7, it came out of the Aquarian Gospels.
Well, I've seen that too. I have that. Look, on the front of the Quran, it says Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali. Now, I don't take nothing for granted, divinely. Divinely meaning that I was just, honestly, honest to my God, is that I was looking up, one came up, a chapter in the Bible where it says that gifts and calling comes without repentance. And I'm thinking that means, let me see, that's Romans 11:29. I'm thinking that means that it comes without prerequisites, right? Meaning that this person comes to us, he has no lettering from a respectful school or thought or populist endorsement that anyone can really put their hands on. No, this person comes to us low class. We find it in musicians. Musicians or artists, they have no training, ain't been nowhere, but they can pick up that violin, that bass guitar, or that whatever, and do that thing, that keyboard, don't know how to read music, but they have a gift of calling, I say, of God. It just comes naturally. So that would classify an example of divinely, meaning that he was guided divinely, No one endorsed him anything.
But I understand where you're going, but prophets bring books. Like, for instance, the Prophet Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad, when they questioned, when they questioned the Prophet Muhammad about the Quran, what did he tell them? He said, you do what? If you don't believe this book is divine, you make one like it.
Right.
Right. Okay, you make one just like it then. So it was like, so that's all I'm saying. Every prophet brought a prophetic message, and that, they say it came from the Creator or whatever. And the prophet, only in the case of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, it doesn't seem to fit the same pattern as all the other prophets had. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know if Noble Drew Ali called himself a prophet. I don't have somebody called him a prophet.
Exactly. Because I think that term gets thrown around without qualifying it or anything like that. So it's just something that I bring to question. I've read the Quran Circle 7 many times. Obviously, it is a very profound and a book. I enjoy it immensely. Matter of fact, I plan on doing a couple of shows with some stuff out of it, because it does have the principles, has a lot of esoteric information in it, and the principles are present. It is undeniable. But it's just this connection with this Levi, what is his name? Levi, what's the guy's name? Levi Darling or something like that, who wrote the Aquarian Gospels. I just got I'm just kind of curious about that. You know, his name is Levi H. Dowling. Yeah.
That's something we have to bring it to the carpet, you know, and it takes someone that really is open. You know, we have to come to agreement. We have to be adults, be the God of our world, come to agreement and look at truth. Truth means consistent. When you look at the consistency of something, you're dealing with truth. And it's simple. And we got to come to agreement and adjust. You know, if we either adjust or we find ourselves extinct, truth demands a change. If we do not change according to what has been, if we do not change, we find ourselves obsolete or, you know, extinct. You know, I heard on one of your on one of the advertisement of high frequency, on the high frequency, the guy says that, you know, failure it brings about a lot of lessons. A clock is right at least twice a day, and a lot of people in operation based on a broken clock is only right twice a day. You know, they got one thing they hold it on to. Okay, but we have moved on. We have evolved. So we must also evolve. That's one of the attributes of Allah. Even with ourselves,
and
we must
you know
evolve.
what? And I like that. And that's something that a religion doesn't do. It has you worshiping people that's been dead 100 years, 2,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago.
Right,
and here's my question. I'm going to pose to all my listeners: where are the Noble Drew Alis of today? Where are the Jesuses of the day? Where are the Prophet Muhammads of the day? Where are the Malcolm X's and the Clarence 13X's and the Marcus Garveys and the where are those people today? You know what I'm saying? Why do people stay in this mindset of, you know, living 50, 100 years ago and everything when you are making history right now today? What are people going to be saying about this epoch in time 50, 100 years from now? Who are they going to be talking about right now?
Right.
You're a God.
Right. Well, I have an answer to that, but
I don't worship nobody. All the messages are sent to you to bring you into a realization of who you are.
That's right.
People keep reverting back to this religious dogma, and they want to get in this state of worshiping something.
Right. I can step into that, but it'd be kind of muddy and it's long. I don't want to step into that. I really want to deal with.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to leave it for another show because it is something that's going to have to be.
It's going to be a muddy. Yeah. You look at the word worship. Worship. I'm sure there's a legal term for worship. You know, I'm sure there's a legal term. I think I saw one time the word worship. So we got worship or ownership of something. Worship. However, I want to deal with the question you put on. Quickly deal with the question you put on the table. I think you said, if Allah is one, then how can there be a devil? That was your first question you put on the table. You know, and I like to approach this from a practical and mathematical educational term. In the Quran, it says shaytan. That's two words. Shay and thon. Shay means thing, a thing. Shay and thon means to obey. Shaytan means to obey a thing. You know, and I was talking to a brother just yesterday about this. In the Arabic, you have the keys Aleph, Khazra. My partner is Fatha, Khazra, Dama, Sakun. And each of these vowels, they represent tense, past, present, future. They also represent subject, verb, and all that stuff. And the Dhamma.
Are you talking about the Fatha, Duma, Kesra, Fatha, Tain,
right? The key. I call them. They're called vowels. It's Fatha, Khazra, Dhamma, Sakun.
I understand how you pronounce it. Yes, Fatha, Kesra, Duma. I got it.
The Dhamma represents subject or possession in the Arabia. And I'm getting to a point. Anything that has that, the subject of the Quran in the Arabia is all about Allah. Everything else is secondary. It's having some relations or possession or relations to Allah when it has that Dhamma on top of it. This is your brother's interpretation. In the Quran, in Surah 2, you have Shaytanu. Shaytan. How do you know what Shaytanu? Let me say Allahu Akbar. Allah is the greatest. It's possession. It gives possession. He, Allah, the greatest, belongs to Allah, or Allah is possession. So how is Shaitan knew? And I meditated.
Says in the Quran, Allah Ahad. He is what?
One. Allah who? Oh, Ahad. Yeah, that's another situation, brother. Because Ahad is you have Wahid, but it also means unique, individual. The definition: individual, unique individual. Allah. It does say that in the what is this? This is the Hanzawiyah. So we get into, really it's pointing back to self, but somebody don't want us to look at self. They want to keep the spooky mystery and the most unlike Muhammad, which I get that's my meta letter or my anchor in a lot of things. He dealt with that. Who is that mystery God? He dealt with that in the Message to the Black Man, and they can find that you can get the book, and also you can go to page 210, and it talks about, he asked that question. It lets us know that they wanted the teachers that mystery God really to deter from the self of the truth. But he is taught by Master Muhammad that the devil is a real person. That devil is we have our own devils. A devil only means that which opposes the will of God and the spirit of God. And Shaitan means obedience of things.
Okay, now let me say this. Let me say this, and I like what they say. Now let's take what Reverend Ike said. He said the devil is mind's misunderstanding of God. So I like what I like, because it's almost the same thing that's being said. And I try to bridge this gap between things. Like when we're talking about the will of Allah, a Christian won't say the will of Allah. A Christian might say something like, God's word will not return back to him void.
God is really an indefinitive title. It's like, say, me saying, Brother Yusef, the mayor's on the phone, or the sheriff's on the phone, or captain who? It's indefinitive. Put a name. I mean, make it physical. It's mystery. It's a mystery name. It's a mathematical name. God is indefinitive.
They'll use the rules of English grammar to make it definitive, because they'll have a definite article guide. And they'll use with a capital G, which is a proper noun, and they'll use a common noun G. That's talking about. That's what they do in the English language. That's how they define it. And we know that God is a German word, and it's not. It's not a Semitic term at all. Allah definitely is a better term to use than the word God. I'll say that. However, God is a very known word. People use it so much. But if you look into the Christian religion, because of the differences in the language, you'll find that Christians say a lot of the same things that Muslims say, but because of the confusion with the language, they won't bridge that gap. They won't have an understanding of it. That's what I'm saying, because you say Allah is law. Allah is the law, because all law emanates from the source. All right? So when God says my word, when a Christian says my word will not come back to me void, he's saying the same thing, because whatever emanates from God is law. Because law means something that cannot be changed or cannot be affected in any kind of way. So that's the definition of law, something that cannot be changed. So the will of Allah cannot be denied. Whatever. And if you go against the will of Allah, you are just like Shaitan is an adversary. You become an adversary. Now, you become adversarial to God if you have a misunderstanding of these laws. This is what Reverend Ike is talking about when he's saying the devil is the mind's misunderstanding of God. And if you don't realize...
Can I bring that a little bit home? Okay.
Go ahead.
We said I don't know if we agree. We made agreement. Shaitan means obedience to things. Anger is a thing. Lust is a thing. Hunger is a thing. You have certain things, natural human nature, wants, desires. These are things, but there are laws that govern those things. And when the law goes against time and period, because it's all about time, when to eat, how to eat, what to eat at the right time. Everything's about time. And we have this moon that you talked about. If he created heaven and earth on the fourth day, hold on, how did he do this? Well, we know that time is measured by movement. And sun and moon how are you going to measure the sun and moon? And that's how we measure time, with sun and moon. It's an oxymoron. Right. And we know that the Bible is not a good. I don't want to bounce around, but we know the Bible is not a good transparent. It's not transparent. Anybody can. I know you have a lot of Christian brothers out there, but you can you can start with your New Testament, deal with the genealogy, and kind of find a genealogy in the Old Testament. And I'm afraid you'd be very frustrated. You'd be very upset. They're going to jack up the genealogy of Jesus.
Yeah, they're going to
David
jack up
and
the genealogy of Jesus.
Just do 1, 2, 3, just go all the way down the line, copy all the genealogy to the end in the Old Testament of David, whoever, and the genealogy of Jesus, they're going to jack it up. It's not transparent. It's not consistent. If you're not
I'm going to tell you like this. What would be good for the Christian religion, I think, if they would start to admit, because you have Christians that will say there are contradictions in the Bible. I'm like, what? I can point out, probably 100 right off the bat. What are you talking about? Ain't even a few. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but it doesn't take away from the principles that are being espoused in the book.
Right.
And that's what, you got to kind of get away, because then that's what turns a lot of people from the book, too. Because that began, like, you got a lot of people on Facebook and things like that, they down in Christianity and all of that. Well, it's not so much that Christianity in itself is the culprit, is the people who are the trustees over the information who are the culprit, who are not giving the people accurate information.
Right. Well, I threw my Bible in the trash, too. But it was coming to choosing Islam as one who desires to live a life of peace, meaning to live a life of peace.
It tells you in the Quran to go back to the books before. You're supposed to read the Torah. You're supposed to
and even on this class, at high frequency, no one is going to complete this class successfully without having a Bible, dear. Because a lot of
let me tell you what. I'm gonna start doing is I'm gonna start using the Quran more, because we were taught on both books, on the Quran and the Bible. So I can go into both of them. I just been kind of concentrated on the Bible more, because my platform was law. Well, my platform was law, and the law kind of led me into the Bible, because when the United States is a Christian country, and really the only reason you can be governed by the Quran here is by treaty. All right? So you have a treaty here and everything, and that treaty allows you, and also your freedom of religion also, but the law really of the land here, or the principles that are being utilized in this country are coming out of the Bible. Just like if you go over to Saudi Arabia, it's going to be the Quran. It's going to be, that's coming out. Everything's coming out of the Quran.
So you would think it would be. I mean, that's a speculation. A lot of them are coming from their own. Brother, I'm telling you, I would put some on this air. I don't want to do it because I won't be hunted down. But I would put something. You would think, Yusef, you think it's coming from Quran. It's coming from nationalism, coming from Hadith over Quran. They worship more the Hadith than they do Quran.
It is. Okay, that's true.
And it's ridiculous.
From the Sahaba of the Prophet Muhammad. I agree. I say they used a lot of Hadith, and you can, and you're right. You're gonna piss some people off if you start talking about that.
I don't have time. I don't have the finance to run right now. I'm kind of standard. But yeah, I want to say, bro, I want to finally say that with Allah meaning all law, and shaitan meaning obedience to things. We have things, we obey things, but there are laws that govern those things, and when we fall succumb or fall subject to that thing, then we become devils. We become opposers of all law. We become that, and I don't think that snake in that garden was a culprit. I don't think so. I'm working on that, and I don't think Iblis, because all law says that a superior knowledge demands submission of inferior knowledge, and Adam was inferior. And you got to look at it. It says when your Lord. It says when Allah said. It says when your Lord said to the angels, bow down. Well, hold on. Who is your Lord? Who is he talking about? Who is he talking about? He's talking about Allah.
Hey. Now, see, you are walking in a direction.
I know.
Now, I'm gonna say one thing. Go read the Sumerian Tales. All right, you got it. Because see, your perception. I'm trying to direct y'all in a place. When y'all start, y'all going to get these questions answered, and you're going to see that these stories have been passed down for thousands of years, and their form has changed. It's just like this. If you took 100 people and put them in a circle, and you whispered something in one person's ear on your left side, and he whispered in the next person's ear, and then it went all the way around the circle, and it came back, and the person whispered the message in your right ear. It's not going to be the same message that you started out with. That's when you're looking at these religious texts. That's what's happening, and that's why you got to go and look at ancient texts so you can see where all this stuff derived from, because that observation that you just made is paramount and is very, very serious. But your religion, your religious mode of thought is gonna compel you not. It's gonna war against it. No, that was Allah. What are you talking about, brother? It says your Lord. Allah was talking to the angels, and and then you don't stop and ask, well, what is an angel? What does it mean when Malachi came out of the sky? This messenger came out of the sky, what they call it Shamaim, came out of the sky down to earth. All these different things. It's like when you start taking the words and looking back and start analyzing it, Ezekiel's wheel and all of this. Look, something was going on. Our conception. That you
said earlier about
by Michelangelo, by all these Europeans.
Right, there you go.
They showing people walking around with sandals and with canes and all this, and with things, and it give us a conception of a very primitive ancestry, which is really racist because
you said earlier that one person only didn't die, Melchizedek, but there was another person that didn't die. That was Elijah. He was taken up in the wheel. So that's two
exactly
other Bibles.
Correct. Elijah didn't die.
So it goes back. I'm gonna check out the Samaritan Tales, and I'm about that. That's what woke me up. I think it was some show on PPS. He had put a book out called "Something About Religion," and he began to analyze and show the transparency and the forgery of Isis and Horus and things like that. And man, it took me a while. It helped me to understand even the teachings of Elijah Muhammad. I get it from everywhere. I want to understand what I got in my hand. I know it has truth. Let
me tell y'all something. These Europeans are ahead of y'all. Y'all got to start watching it. When y'all see that stuff on the History Channel, all these years, we were talking about this. Dr. Malachi York was talking about all this stuff 20 years ago. All right?
Oh, yeah.
Now it is being very prominent on television, History Channel and all this. They're talking about this stuff. And our people got to get up to speed on the information because we languishing behind in this religious dogma. You got to pull yourself out of this dogma and start looking at facts. What are the facts? What are the facts surrounding it? Okay, what about the translation? What about the transliteration? All right? What about the, you got to start looking at all these different things and scrutinizing them instead of taking things at face value from what somebody else is telling you. You got to go and find things out for yourself. And you can't be afraid to go and look at something else. Prophet Muhammad says, seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave, even unto China. Now, that is a hadith, but it was a very good one. That was very good. You should study everything. And let me tell you something else for the Christians. Christians study hadith, too. Because that's what Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is. Hadith.
That's right.
The book of Jesus is the book of Revelations. That is the Injil. The rest of those books is hadith.
Interesting.
They got the same thing, trust me. And Christians, don't just throw the hadith on the Muslims. Christians have a hadith too, and that's what the Gospels are, the hadith.
Okay.
So, hey, let me go on. Let me open up another phone line real quick. Let me dip over to Georgia real quick. 404-5828. You want to chime in?
Yusef.
I'm on. You're on the air.
Oh, brother, this is Phoenix. I couldn't stay away. Brother John Blue said, hey, Phoenix, you got to call in, man. So I'm just checking out the show, and I was sitting back. Now, when you mentioned earlier the whole thing about, on the fourth day, how do you measure time? I had to write down a couple notes on that because to me that's an obvious, easy one because we're using the word day based on a 24-hour day. That's what the creationists do, which has got to be totally wrong. And to me, that day in the Hebrew language or in the original text, or whatever language that was, wasn't there another term that was used that meant more than just a literal rotation of the sun?
Let me ask you this. I'm going to make this easy. How do you measure time if there are no sun, moon, and stars?
No, wait. Let me finish my thought. I know what you're saying, and I agree with you.
Okay.
But let me I'm saying so you can point. Here's my point. My point is this. When the Bible writer Moses, if he wrote that first 5 books of the Bible, let's just assume that was correct, that he wrote those.
Okay.
It was written so that
we know it's not correct. Wait a minute. Let me interrupt you. We know it's not correct because Moses dies in the book, so he couldn't wrote all the books.
Come on, man.
Know that.
All right, go ahead.
I know what you're saying. Just saying, is when he wrote those first 5 books of the Bible, he would have to have been writing with his audience in mind, not with things way over their head. So it would have to be a day that they could relate to, so they would understand that it was a period of time, because we also use that term relatively today. Like, for example, you'll say, my Father's Day, man, back in the day, blah, 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 right? Which day are you referring to? Is it a specific day or a time period? You're referring to a time period.
Well, now we're getting in conjecture. Now we're getting in conjecture and we're getting into opinion. Okay, my thing is this, I want to know what the facts are, all right? We're talking about a day, all right, right there. Okay, then we can apply that same question. We say, when that day you shall surely die. And you see the gentleman that was just on, he said, well, the Christians say 1,000 years is like a day to God. Okay, well, what the hell is 1,000 years? Wasn't no sun, moon, and star. How you measure 1,000 years? Okay? You know what I'm saying? Okay, and then, so are we talking about a 6,000-year creation? And we talking about the 7 days in Genesis and everything? Or are we talking about 1,000 years to create every day that we talking about in Genesis? That was 1,000 years of our time? Is that what we're talking about?
No, what I do to simplify it so I can understand it is that each was not a 24-hour period of time. It had to have been. It had to have been representative of a period of time, and I only say that from a scientific standpoint.
How did you measure the period of time? There is no sun, moon, and stars. So how do you measure time?
And I'm agreeing with you. We are using a term that is inaccurately describes the period, because we're limiting ourselves to the word day. Because day to us is by what? The rotation of the sun, right? Or the earth going around it.
I'm with you. Okay, let's throw day out and let's use age. All right? Okay, let's use age or epoch or something like that. Whatever. All right? How do you measure the epoch in time if there is no sun? Time is movement. Without movement, there is no time. All right?
That's right.
Time begins to be measured when there is movement. All right? Which is why you have a rhythm. All right? Now, if you don't have a sun, moon, and stars, if God is not standing on anything, if there's nothing to stand on to measure something against, how can you have time? I'll tell you this. I'll do this. If they shoot you out into outer space, past the solar system, out into the void and into blackness, you won't know what time it is because there's nothing to look at. There is no sun. Time is an illusion.
I know that.
Well, how we measure what we call time going around the earth and all of this kind of stuff right here, we're measuring it based off it's 56 minutes, 6 seconds. What is it, 56 minutes? Wait a minute, 56 minutes, 56 minutes, 6 seconds, something like that. I forgot what it is. But it's not exactly 60 minutes that constitute when it's 23 hours, 56 minutes, 6 seconds, all right? That's a day. That's why you have a leap year, because it's not exactly 24 hours, all right? But that is being measured by our motion of the planet Earth, as long as it takes to go around the sun, and then, of course, how the Earth revolves around the sun, okay? That's how you measure days and hours and years and so forth. Now, if we're using that, that's the only thing we know of as a calendar, okay, for days, all right? None of that shit existed. All right. Well, where's it coming from?
The question has not been.
You know what? That's my whole point. I'm in agreement with you, Yusef. I'm in agreement with you because time is a construct of man's mind, not the creator. It's not limited by time. There is no time.
Okay, great. Great. I'm with you. Now let me say this. So then we can agree that whoever wrote that in Genesis is some man who did not have an accurate understanding of the of esoteric sciences or the mind of God or anything like that. Whoever put that in that book.
Right. It's a myth. It goes back. It falls back into the basket of myths. That's all it does. It's a myth.
It's almost like the person. It's almost like the person who was writing that was trying to put it in terms that he could grasp and understand, and the people around him could.
Exactly.
I said at the beginning that the day that we're using is an inaccurate term because we only know of a day, like you already alluded to and expressed very well, that a day for us is our calculation because we are limited by time. So
okay, well, I got another question. I got another question. I got another question for you then. Another question. Okay, on the first day, God said, let there be light. Okay, what light? The sun, moon, and stars was created on the fourth day. So on the first day, what light are we talking about right now, okay?
Boy, oh boy.
Answer for you.
Okay.
You ready?
All right, I'm listening. Okay, I'm listening. I'm listening. Go ahead.
You're absolutely, the sun, the earth itself, all of that stuff was already here when the universe was created. I get that. So when you're talking about let there be light, you're talking about, well, what was this in reference to? The light was already there. The sun was already there. Okay? The solar system and the planets were.
Wait a minute. Are you saying when God said let there be light, the sun was already there?
What I'm saying is it's only as regards to the earth, from someone on Earth's perspective.
Who created the sun? Where did the sun come from? Who created the sun?
This ties back to the same thing that we were just talking about with time and day.
All right.
It's from the perspective of someone on Earth. That's so that we, in our limited intellect,
with a primitive, and you know what? And I agree with that. There's someone on Earth with a primitive mindset, just like when you have in Revelations when John was asked to look into the future, and he started talking about stars hitting the planet Earth and iron locusts and all this kind of stuff. That is a description of a man who looked into our time and saw maybe Apache helicopters, who saw missiles hitting the ground and everything. If he was going to describe a missile, and he could only use his frame of reference, he said, man, it looked like the exhaust of the missile looked like a star hitting the ground.
Exactly. So it has to be from the perspective of people of that day that was written.
So now, hold on. Now, I'm with you. So now, I'm glad you did that. Now, so now when we look at it in those terms now, we begin to see a different picture. Now we're seeing a primitive individual writing a story trying to convey a message in terms that using a frame of reference around him the best that he could. But he probably was dealing with some entities who were much more advanced than he was, and he termed them Elohims, because it's a plural, that's what it is there. And he's saying, well, look, these individuals, they could, in the Elohim, they walked in the garden, and they chose to come here, and, all these different things. This is somebody with a childlike mind trying to give a description of something that they can't understand. Kind of like when a person describes a UFO. If a UFO comes down, what did you see? It was bright light. It was a shiny disc, and it was like rainbow colors, and it gave off a sound. It moved. It was, trying to give a description of something that you've never seen before.
Correct. So I'm with you on that. I get that.
Okay.
Yusef,
and you know what? I'm right with you. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not trying to be combative or anything. All I'm doing, because I understand, like, let it be light. What I would have said was, well, the let be light is when the light that shineth in man, because, that's when he created us. The light that shineth in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. And also when he said the greater light and the lesser light, there's a lesser light inside of you and a greater light that shines out in the side. There's a sun burning in you. That's why you have a solar plexus, what they call the solar plexus, the solar center in the body. See, I could give an explanation of some things, and we could go into some different explanations of what's being discussed right here. But if you were to take things literal, it would lead to confusion. Mm-hmm. And you have to begin to get in. That's why I'm saying a lot of things in the Bible you cannot look at literally.
Brother Yusef,
you can't give a literal, because if you give it a literal interpretation, it's going to look crazy.
Yeah. I hear you. Now, I do have one other question, though.
Go ahead.
Something a few minutes earlier, you said something about the books of the Bible, and there were some writings that were 10,000 years older. Which writings were you referring to again?
Everything, the 7 tablets of creation by the Sumerians, or you would call the Babylonians, or the Anunnaki. It's called the 7 Tablets of Creation.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Tell you same stories. Y'all get on. Wait a minute. Let me Google it right now.
Okay.
Let me Google it right now.
And while you I gotta tell you, I just finished this documentary called Zeitgeist.
Zeitgeist.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Zeitgeist. And that helped with a lot of different things because I'm just like, wow, it was just mind blowing, you know. So
Peter, what's his name? Peter Joseph. That's his name. I would love to get him on the show. Very, very intelligent. He pissed off a lot of Christians. They don't like him. Hold on. I'm putting a link to the 7 Tablets of Creation in the chat room in case y'all are curious about it. Y'all may want to at your leisure. Or you can get on the Internet and just kind of, I like what Sun Moon Star said, we confuse God with Creator. 2 separate things. That's going to mess some people up. God and the Creator are 2 separate things.
Brother Yusef, can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead. It's open. Okay. It's open mic.
Let me say, we cannot be afraid that when we are holding on to something with both our hands, like this book that's called Bible, we can't be afraid to say, hey, let me set this down, so let me pick up this and check this out, because it's obvious that we need a new book. Those people back there did not have the instrument to measure time, just like they don't have the instrument to measure time of trillions. They only have the instrument to measure time in maybe close to billions. That's why they said man started 6,000 years ago, some 50 years ago they said that, because they only had instruments to measure time that far. But now that they've advanced themselves, they have instruments to measure with these ice. They know how to measure ice, tree stump. They've learned how to measure time. So therefore, they had to set aside or discontinue. I don't know the word. Discontinue those books. We have to not be so afraid. To that Bible, we know that Bible is not a true book. It has good. We should be able to set that down and pick this thing up called Samaritan Tales and learn something on a higher level.
Let me tell you the real reason why I point out all this stuff, because I'm trying to free people's minds. Because it was amazing to me when I was first shown all this. I had read all of this over and over and over again for so many years and didn't see things. You know, like, damn, I've been reading these damn chapters for last most of my life, and I never saw that. I never saw that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's my purpose in doing it. It's not to tear down anything or attack anything. It's to make people think. It's like, damn, I never thought about that. I've been reading this, and I'm looking, and then it's like, I'm looking at it square in my face. I'm like, wow, it does say that. Why I never saw that before.
Well, brother, you're doing a fine job, because other brother, I forgot your name, I'm sorry, but you just made an interesting. You said we can't be afraid to set down something that we've held on to very tightly our whole lives. And you know what? I had to do that, after starting listening to, this high frequency show, simply because I knew that there was some things that, just like Yusef experienced, I've read, and never really read it. Never really got something that went right by me, went over my head. When you talk about divine nature and divine laws, and those principles you're talking about, I'm like, what are you talking about? And then as I start looking at it from a different perspective, it's there. But why did I never do that before? Why was that never brought up before? Okay. So now I got to set that down, and I got to see what else, and learn those things. But that takes a little humility to do that. So I've had to do that.
That's right. Even when you do that, you'll find out this ain't nothing new. This is something nobody's going to come to you, brother, and give you something new. It ain't going to happen that way. What they'll come and do is try to help you understand what you have in your hand. Who was it said that? I think in the Matrix, the article said that I can't make this choice for you. I'm here to help you understand the choice you already made.
Yes. Absolutely.
And that's a power. I'm a Matrix fan. That's on my number one. I sit and watch Matrix with the TV. Just the sound. And she said that I cannot make this decision for you. I'm not your teacher. She didn't say all that. But I can't make this decision for you. I'm only here to help you understand the decision you have already made in your head, within yourself. Yeah. So that's
right. Hey y'all, let me bring in another caller real quick. Let me bring in Indiana 317-1342. You want to chime in?
Islam, peace to the gods and goddesses.
Peace, brother.
Yeah. I was going to say something real simple, but y'all got the building. So I wanted to deal with the God and devil concept, but the brother they come in with the Al-Islam perspective and the brother with the Christian perspective, and I'm going to bring in the Judaism and all the different books. And when I went through the transformation from a Christian to Nation of Islam to 5%er, Black Panther Party, Black Nationalists, the metaphysical classes and stuff, as a young man coming up, I've learned a lot of different things, and it impregnated my mind. But it wasn't until I became a more, that the enlightenment hit, and it was so bright that I had to back up for a second and come back to it. And high frequency was the fine-tuning of my life experience in the spirituality of things. And when I hear different brothers express themselves with their books, I tell them, when we came in this world, we didn't have those books. When we came into this world, we had expressed that expression of Allah. All of us did. We might not call it that, but that's what we did. When we got our behind stank, that's what we came out of. We can say what we want, but it was the society that we were born in that gave us these pamphlets or these books, including the Sacred Seven Quran. Now, I ain't saying I'm not leaving that out, but the brother said basically about a prophet, and I want to share my insight on that. The prophet come, matter of fact, I can call Yusef, Jonah Bay, Esau, Sister L, Sister Unique. I can call them all prophets, because a prophet is an individual that the all in all make manifest in this earth plane to reveal that which we knew not, and to make it clear. When the Prophet Noah Drew Ali came on the set, he made it clear that we didn't know who we are to be, and said we're not this, but we that in our spiritual journey, which is a spiritual being domiciling in flesh, that we more. It's a universal term. But the wicked in society took and made it into a religious dogma that Yusef is talking about, so we get off.
Hello? Uh-oh. Oh, the brother didn't get cut off. Oh, man, he got dropped. I'll bring him back in. Let me bring in this other caller real quick, 313-8214. But some of you had a question? Hold your question. Let me bring in another caller, and I'm going to let this brother back in because he's been waiting for a long time. 313-8214. You want to chime in?
Of course, Yusef. Peace. This is Jason.
Hey, what's going on, bro? What's happening?
What's going on? All right, I'm going to attack both of those. I'm going to try both of those. Now, when y'all was talking about how do you measure time, okay, I agree with everybody. Time doesn't exist. But I'm going to go back to something you said before on a previous show. There's one truth and there's half-truths, okay?
Okay.
Now, y'all kept using one word that y'all didn't pay attention to, and that could have cut all that out, was the word measure. What do we use to measure something?
You'd use time and space. You have to
no. Measure. Keep it simple. What do we use to measure something?
A ruler.
What's on the ruler?
Numbers.
There you go. Numbers. Okay, from 0, what's the next number?
1, but listen, hold on. Numbers still, that's a creation. That's something you created. Numbers.
No, I think numbers will be there. Well, okay, but then you got sound too, and the same thing. Or you would say, how do you measure sound? You measure sound with numbers, right?
Well, you do measure with numbers, but see, numbers are okay. When you're talking about sound, you're talking about movement, either sound, space, all this using numbers. all those are aspects of creation, because none of that would have existed if you didn't have movement. All right? You have to have movement. Right. Creation comes from movement. Everything is vibrating. All right? So, we use a number, which is an artificial kind of like creation to make a determination of that's how we measure things and make sense of the universe in our own terms. So we came up with a thing called numbers. But you don't see numbers nowhere in nature. I mean, you don't see like the number 0, the number 1, the number 2, and the number 3. You can't point that out in nature, numbers. You can. Those are symbols that identify units that we have broken down to, like I said, to make sense of things around us. But you don't see numbers in nature.
Space to measure space and time. Numbers. Space and time. Number 1, this happened this time. After that happened 2. After 3, space and time, numbers.
Right. Yeah. I just think from when it comes to the Bible, what I'm saying is that they left out a lot of what could be used as measurement, even if you just saying numbers, because even before the sun, stars, and the moon, all that be created, you got to have matter, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, in that matter, you have to, add on to something. Well, like you said, the movement. You got to move up, you got to move down, you got to move left and right. How many times did I move? You see what I'm saying? So you can start at 0 and then work your way up. So if you want to get into language, then maybe you can say that it's not numbers, it's something that man created. But even still, you know what I'm saying? I can make a sound, and then there could be many other different sounds. Well, how do I identify those sounds? I count, the different sounds that I hear. You know what I'm saying? So that's just like a blind person. They read the Braille, based on, what they feel. They use another sense to, use a language for them. So for me, I feel like numbers was the original language, because that's what's true. Numbers is going to give everything its truth. I agree.
Now, in one sense, I agree with you 100%. That I think that mathematics is a universal language. But as it applies right here, I don't think that's what they're talking about right here. They weren't using no higher sciences and all this kind of stuff. It's like how are you measuring even what you're saying right now? If there's no sun, moon, and stars, you don't have anything to measure against. You have to have something to measure against. You have nothing to measure against.
Well, I was saying, but that's why I was saying that measurement will have to come after the count. It's measurement still, because that's what's on the ruler is numbers.
Right, but what are you measuring? If there's no sun, moon, and stars, what are you measuring? What are you measuring?
Don't have it. You don't have an instrument. Rulers are instruments.
Right. I'm not saying you use a ruler. I'm talking about I'm speaking specifically numbers. That's why I said it's universal. Like it's universal. And I'm saying before you even get to the numbers, you have to have the matter. Okay. And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying from that point, then was counted. Now we want to say how many years and all that. Yeah, okay, that took a long time. You know what I'm saying? But that's still based on numbers, and that's why numbers can go up to infinity. Life is infinity. Energy is infinite. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't die.
Hey, let me bring back in, brother. You there, brother?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm yeah. That ain't nothing but friction, Let me. I'm gonna hurry up and do this one because I like that number thing too. Harmonics. I wanted to talk to the brother, the Islamic brother, about harmonics. That what made me come into the Moorish Science Temple was the harmonics, the concept of the Rosetta Stone. My son introduced me to that book, and I had a firm belief in Islam, and assalamu alaikum, rahmatullah barakatuhu. And I would, I love the surah, Ikhlas, Kuhu Allah, who had Allah, who summit, Lam Yulid, Walam Yulad, Walam Yakun, Kufu One Ahad. And I love that prayer. I love the 5 prayers, right? But when my son brought me the Rosetta Stone, and I'm looking at the languages, and I go back to the Medunetta script, and it looked like the Arabic that they say came 1,400 years ago, that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, perfected that by the angel Gabriel came to him and told him to read. And, you know, the Arabic was made perfect. For my son to show me that, Daddy, that Arabic is not Arabic, it's a misnomer. And to go back to the Medunetta, that far back to see that was the first language on the planet through our ancestors, and it was harmonic, and we saw things in motion, and that's how we interpreted it. That's how they come to mathematics. Islam is mathematics, mathematics is Islam, and that's the universal language through harmonic and motion. And then they took and made it demonic by putting nouns and different other things to make it stagnant, so other people would hear that language called the English language and say they sound like barking dogs. What I want to say, brother, is that our truth is universal. And every time we get into these religious paradigms or we get into these dogmas, we forget the focus of truth and life and its purity. So what Yusef is trying to do, and he is doing, by me speaking, you speaking, and the brother who just coming into it and learning through the Christian perspective, that is the ultimate true, all law, because we are supposed to be as one, generating that perfect energy with each other to bring about that universal change to send what you would call the Satan or the devil or whatever you think is a negative that is destructive to nature, because positive and negative is needed in the universe, but it's not needed on a destructive pattern that we say Iblis, or we say Satan, or we say the devil is destroying things or testing us to see if we really love Allah, like Job did in the Bible, or the parable of Job. What we are supposed to do is kill that damn thing inside of us, because that is where it comes from. It has never been an external Satan. It's never been an external devil. It's never been an external anything of that nature. We conjured that thing up. We brought it into being out of being fearful or curious, and then we keep looking into things, not understanding, and then we sit up and say, oh, we ain't supposed to do this, we ain't supposed to do that. And then somebody else look at this group and see that this group is natural, and they learn about fear, and they want to institute fear in us because they want to build jail systems. They want to build public school systems to dumb the people down and make them subservient to them. This is what the prophets come to reveal to us, the laws of nature, not the laws that we think is law. And then when high frequency came into being, man, let me tell you, I'm breaking myself all the way back down and rebuilding myself, because I understand what the real being is. And it's not just that you say Assalamu alaikum. It's not that I say Islam. It's not that you say praise the Lord. That it's not enough for that. Our very being, our aura, our energy, everything has to say the Creator is the Creator. And it's not a Sunday thing. It's not a Friday thing. And it's not a day. It's every minute, second of what we perceive as the day. And that's what I wanted to say to Yusef and the brothers about God and the devil, because it ain't no such thing. We made that. We made that happen, and we got to come out of that, out of this deep sleep that we in. So I love this brother and his teachings and the people that call in, because this is the tool, this is the union, this is the high frequency that the Creator wants us to be on, these thinkers.
Okay, I don't know if I don't know if you learned the Arabic language. I mean, really learn it for yourself. Be able to take the Arabic part, get a dictionary and look it up for yourself, and based on and be spiritually led, divinely led, like the Circle 7. He was divinely led. You be divinely led. You take that language. It took me about 21 years to get it, and I can help you get it within 21 days, where you can take it and go back over that prayer you just said and really look at that, and you will see how much you have missed. I ain't said make you nothing, a Muslim or whatever you want to be. At least if you're gonna put it into your soul, your mind, like you put things into your mouth, I'm sure we're intelligent enough to read what's on the pack. Oh man, I'm just gonna drink it. No, we're intelligent enough to read it. To really understand. If we don't understand, we have to be man enough to say, I'm going to put this down. I don't know what the thing is. I'm putting it in me. Same thing with the Bible. The Bible was in a Hebrew text. How many brothers and sisters know Hebrew who can take it from its original text and bring it to the family? I was given this gift. I didn't go to a masjid. I didn't go to school. I later did to just test it, but it was given to me as a gift. And I give it to my brothers and sisters as a gift within 21 days. But the point I'm making is that the prayer even you made was like a recital, something you heard, you probably read off the English, but the Arabic, brother, I'm telling you, man, you have not even touched it. Like brothers and sisters in the Nation of Islam have not even scraped the teachings of the Muslim Elijah Muhammad, because I say that. He was a divinely led man, third grade education, third degree, and some of the things he put in there, he could not understand. I mean, his books don't sound like he talks. It doesn't sound like him. It sounds like, his secretary had a part in that. I mean, it doesn't sound like him. If you listen to him talk and read his readings, it doesn't sound like him. That's some divinity in that. My point I'm saying, if you're going to really put your hands on it, put it into your mind, impregnate your mind. Your mind is a womb, and it becomes flesh, and really get the value from it, learn it, get everything you can, brother. I would want you to go back over that. Just start with that one recital. I will help you and let you see that. I'm solid recital, and I wouldn't out there say it over the air because I get in trouble. But the point I'm making is that learn it. If once you can get that dictionary, like I'm going through this class of high frequency, man. I'm learning this law, something I've been wanting to do for a long time. But I have to learn the language. So when I come on the air and talk to the user, I'm speaking the language that he's speaking to me. He's teaching me. I don't come in no baby language, no baby talk, the lawyer. I want to come with the language what he's bringing me up to. I want to learn this language so that I can perfect. I can become a God, a better God, and not continue to be a devil to myself.
And that's true. And you have to study to show yourself approved. Hey, look, y'all, we are out of time. Next coming on is Q Ali. He's going on. The Ali Nation is up next. I think I'm going to be able to do the webinar tonight, administrative process. If y'all didn't catch it, you should have catch it. It was $25. I don't do too many $25 webinars and go in. I mean, I'm going in on it, $25. You know what I'm saying? I come in and just have a seat, and and I took them from scratch. I took them all the way from scratch. I started with a blank piece of paper. That's what I did, because I got to show people things, how you do this thing. So make sure you join us tonight on that. If you want to get on that, just email us or go to the website. Go to radiohighfrequency.com and register for that. Hey, we're out of time, y'all. I want to thank all my callers for calling in. Peace to all the guys and goddesses. Peace. And I will see all of y'all tonight and tomorrow. We're going to be on, we're doing this. I'm coming on at noon every day, y'all. So make sure y'all catch the Natural Law Hour. Peace to all the guys and goddesses. Peace.
I hear what niggas saying. Niggas gonna talk to me like when I come on the plane and shit. Louis on.